So the first thing is, if you're going to invest some time and money into marketing, you've got to be consistent and persistent with it. It's not a short-term issue. I mean, we'll talk about the short-term stuff, but marketing is a long game. And so whatever you're going to do, you've got to be able to dedicate yourself, your time, money, resources, because you've got to be consistent and persistent with it. It's going to take 3 to 6 months to evaluate if what you're doing is already working. And then within that, if it's not working to the way you'd want to see as far as the returns and the outcomes and the sales that you want, then you've got to tweak. And so too many times, because we're too impatient, we stop too early. Thriving in Tandem. It's a podcast for you, the married entrepreneur that wants to win in business and marriage at the same time.
Welcome to Thriving in Tandem.
All right. Hello, Thriving in Tandem family. Welcome to episode 189. We're going to talk about the perfect marketing strategy.
Oh, there's a perfect one?
Yes.
Okay.
Now. Of course, that's what we call clickbait, right? For titles, the perfect marketing strategy. But
100x.
There is some truth to this, and let me get to this. Why we can be so confident about talking about helping you develop the perfect marketing strategy? Because number one, marketing, finding success in marketing seems to be very elusive for a lot of business owners. Most rely on word of mouth, which really is the best form of marketing anyway, because it's people are hearing from a trusted source and they're recommending you. So the likelihood of them actually becoming a customer through word of mouth is very high, versus, seeing your advertising on a bus bench, for example. Right?
Well, and why wouldn't you want to go with somebody that a friend of yours has already used, or a service or a product and loves it? That speaks a lot right there. Yeah,
because at the end of the day, they want to have some trust, right? And so word of mouth is a very powerful form of marketing. And even if your business is relying primarily on that, there's still some steps you can do to even improve on word of mouth marketing, actually increase that rate, right? And so some of the challenges around choosing the right marketing strategy is because there's so much noise out there, right? And we've talked about this in other episodes. There's so much noise out there about, you got to do this, right? You got to do this. And sometimes recommendations from some of your business owners, friends, and saying, oh, this is what I did, right? And we, 10x our business or whatever.
There's only one way to do it. Yeah. And it seems like it changes every 6 months. There's something new that we need to be doing.
Yeah, and so we're kind of constantly bombarded by information and recommendations and all that. And a lot of times, if you've already had a bad experience, you tried some of those marketing strategies that worked for somebody else, or you saw in some kind of video or on social media ad or something, and it didn't work out, and you get disappointed, and then therefore, right, we just fall back into what you've been doing, which is primarily based on referral marketing or word of mouth marketing, which again is still fine. But if you're looking to take the next step, how do we improve upon that? But how do we find the right marketing strategy beyond just that? And there is no cookie cutter marketing that works for every business. So, there's a lot of hype out there. So don't believe the hype.
So there's no guarantee.
There's no guarantee.
This is going to work for everybody and for you.
And so, it's not so much don't believe the hype. That's probably too strong of words, but because a lot of the marketing stuff that's being pushed out there, they do work. Let's be real. That does work, but it doesn't work for everybody. I guess what we're getting at. And so what you have to do is you have to evaluate what will work for you. And so the perfect marketing strategy is really the one you develop, maybe with counsel and stuff like that, and base what is going to work for you. And that's what this episode is going to delve into, is the fundamentals of marketing that will help you create the perfect strategy for you. And this will be kind of like a checklist, right? Because again, we're going to talk in some generalities, because obviously until we're sitting down with you, and so like every one of our clients, we have to develop what's the right strategy for you. And a lot of what we do is actually looking at what's working and what's not, and then saying, okay, how do we just improve upon what's already working? And then the stuff that's not working, is it worth it to improve upon it, or do we just stop doing it? Because what we want to do is focus most of our effort, time, and money and resources to the stuff that's already working, and how do we make sure improve upon it?
Well, and I think too, a lot of times our clients say they need help with marketing, which you go and look at things, and it's more than that.
Yeah. But we're going to, for this episode, we're going to focus primarily on marketing. And so let's go into some fundamentals. First, let's kind of like frame or create the proper mindset and expectation. So the first thing is, if you're going to invest some time and money into marketing, you've got to be consistent and persistent with it.
Those are two words everybody wants to hear, honey.
Yeah, because marketing is a long-term game. It's not a short-term issue. I mean, we'll talk about the short-term stuff, but marketing is a long game. And so whatever you're going to do, you've got to be able to dedicate yourself, your time, money, resources, because you've got to be consistent and persistent. It's going to take 3 to 6 months to evaluate if what you're doing is already working. And then within that, if it's not working to the way you'd want to see as far as the returns and the outcomes and the sales that you want, then you've got to tweak. So it's going to take some time just to get dialed into the marketing strategy you're implementing, to tweak it enough that you'll finally get the results you want. And so too many times, because we're too impatient, we stop too early.
But I think it's pretty common to tweak things.
Yeah,
isn't it?
You're constantly evaluating. So it's a constant thing. So again, it speaks to you got to commit to being consistent and persistent. So that's the one thing. The second thing is it takes time and money to do marketing, to do business in general. It's time and money. And so you have to evaluate, what do you have more, or what do you have to invest into marketing? How much time do you have? How much money do you have? Right? So if you don't have a lot of money to budget for marketing, then that means it's going to take your time, which means it's going to fall on you or someone, your staff, your team to do. Right? And so, or maybe you don't have time. And so that means you're going to have to dedicate money to hire people to do it. Mm-hmm. Or what if people are saying, I don't have either? Well, then we're going to default to time. You're going to have to find the time to do it, but do it in a way you can be consistent and persistent. And it doesn't have to take a lot of time, but it has to be something that you can do that you can be consistent and persistent at. Right? Now, if you are going to spend money, you want to budget no more than 20% of revenue. So if you look at your total revenue, no more than 20% of that goes into marketing. So, but the range is 5 to 20%. So 5 to 20% of revenue goes to marketing. And so, on the higher end, it's usually more for when you're spending 10, 20% of revenue towards marketing. It's really when you're starting out, launching a new product or launching your business or something like that. But over time, you want to take it down more towards that 5 to 10% range. All right. So budgeting. So from a money perspective, that's the rule of thumb as far as budgeting, how you form your marketing budget. So that's the money piece. But again, evaluating what can you be consistent and persistent with the time and money and resources that you have.
And these are all things, I don't hear a lot of people talking about how much money you should spend on marketing, like a percentage.
Yeah, and sometimes there's been a couple cases where when we look at their profit and loss statement, we've seen their marketing budgets way out of whack, right? And so you're generating sales, great, but it's impacting your bottom line in such a way as actually not really making money at the end of the day from the marketing. And so we have to figure out really how to get better return on investment on your marketing. So yeah, budget, it's another issue. The last piece, as far as creating the proper mindset around marketing, is understand that it's all about forming relationships. And it's the relationships that leads to the trust that ultimately leads to sales. Going back to word of mouth. The relationship of the potential new customer isn't between you and them right now. It's actually between them and the person that's referring or recommending you. Right. So they already have a strong relationship and the trusted relationship. And because of that recommendation and that trust, that's what leads to the sale. Right. They're already coming. And so like our most powerful, right, marketing tool, even for us, is when people refer us. And when they refer us, the likelihood of them becoming a customer or a client is relatively high, pretty much 100%. Right? If you think about it, like the people that have recommended us, they've referred a client to us. I mean, they've pretty much been 100% versus the ones that come off of a Google search, right? That percentage rate, that close rate goes much lower.
Or an ad.
and ads probably the lowest because it's basically anyways. We'll get to ads, but marketing is all about forming relationships. So that's why the consistent, persistent part is.
And long term, sorry, honey, and long term relationships is that.
Yeah, exactly. And so the cycle. My wife is jumping ahead.
Sorry,
that's okay.
I'm known for that, honey.
It's okay, but it kind of dovetails or it goes into the next thing I'm talking about is marketing. You got to think about it as also a cycle. So in the beginning, right before you have the customer, again, building relationships. So whatever marketing strategy or tool that you're going to use, like say social media, it's all about building relationships. You're not selling on social media all the time. You want to really provide value, getting the customer to know you, know your values, know how you think, why is your product or service so valuable to me? I mean, what is it, what's the backstory to this? That builds a relationship that leads to the trust and then ultimately leads to sell. But then even after the sell, you want to continue to build that relationship, because then after the sell, as you continue to build the relationship, it leads to loyalty that creates customer retention, customer coming back to buy again. And the loyalty factor, as you were saying, honey, is the key thing, because that will to build the foundation of your business. So why do I say that? Because customers coming in, but the greater percentage of them that keep coming back, right? You don't have to really market to them as hard, right? You just want to maintain the relationship and build the relationship. And then those people are the foundation. Those customers are the foundation of your business. And then as you're getting more customers coming in the door, that you hopefully retain a big percentage of them, right? Then your business grows.
Well, and customer loyalty, when they keep coming back, it's going to be a lot more cost effective to keep them than to have to keep finding new people all the time.
Yeah, it's like the old adage, cheaper to keep her. Yeah. Now that comes from the fire department that I heard this from when they were talking about marriage and divorce, right? It's cheaper to keep her. Well, it's same with customer retention. It's cheaper to keep them, right? Than to be cycling customers coming in, cycling customers going out. We've had a couple clients in the past where their growth was stagnant and they're always getting new customers. And so I started looking into their customer retention rate, which was about 50%. So which means they were losing customers just as fast as they're getting it. So which means that's why their business wasn't growing, was because they weren't retaining enough customers.
Well, and I don't know how many people are even keeping track of that.
A lot don't.
They're just always thinking on to the next person, new person, as opposed to let's keep the loyalty ones.
Right. So again, going back to marketing is about relationships. And the better the stronger you build that relationship, right, the more of a loyalty factor and higher customer retention rate you're going to have. And so we'll start getting into a little bit more specifics here. So let's say you're going to be the do-it-yourselfer, right? You have got more time than money to do the marketing, or one of your team members. So you got to evaluate, what do you enjoy doing in form of, do you like to speak? Do you like to be in front of an audience? So do some public speaking, do some educational, some workshops, that kind of stuff. Or do you like to network? Just being out in a group and just meeting people, making connections. Are you okay with being in front of the camera? Right, honey?
Why are you looking at me?
so we started.
The things my husband gets me to do, I'm very adventurous, so it doesn't take much. But so it's like, wow.
Before we got on the YouTube, on video, right? We did our podcast, and then we did audio. So, my pitch to my wife was, hey,
my sales and marketing husband, here we go.
We're just gonna have a microphone. Let's talk, right? But then obviously she got more comfortable. We've been doing some public speaking and all that. She's been more comfortable. So now we're publishing the content on YouTube as well. And so
how did we get here?
And one thing leads to another. So for us, or for me, I was thinking, hey, I know I can be consistent with the podcast. One is I enjoy just speaking more than writing. I mean, I was doing our weekly e-blast and doing a little bit of blogging and all that, but that was, a little bit tedious because you got to do
Oh,
you got to do edit. You have to edit.
honey, you're like in our podcast. You're like doing that more than writing.
Well, yeah, because the writing you got to edit, and I'm not. I'm
Oh, I
not.
thought you liked being with
I think I'm
me.
a good writer, but I'm not a great writer, and especially the editing process is that's the tedious part. So the writing part itself is not bad. It's the editing part to make it sound, good. So now, with the podcast though, it's something we can be consistent with, but also it does form the basis of all the other pieces of marketing that we're doing.
So the majority of the work goes into the podcast. Is that what you're saying? And then
That's
you.
the foundation, because then and now is published on YouTube, and this doesn't take a lot of time. There's all these automated tools that do all this,
Because
right?
you already have the
Plus,
content from the
yeah,
podcast.
and we've got a producer and editor that does the editing for the podcast and stuff like that. And so once the podcast is done, then what I do is I form an e-blast for it. I don't go word for word. I don't. We do have transcription, but I just create kind of a little bit of a blog article around the podcast episode so people can read it or watch it. And then also the same piece of email card with some editing, I also put it on our LinkedIn newsletter, Thriving in Tandem. And then also you create the snippets, the video snippets to be put on social media, on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
And so one piece of content is used in a variety of forms. So it looks like we're doing all this stuff, but the reality is it's not that much. I mean, for what it looks, I'm just taking one piece of content and using it in different forms. And so the consistency part, the thing that has paid off for us is on the website. The podcast goes on the website, and then of course I've got some the copy that goes along with it. And what that does, I know not everyone understands search engine optimization or SEO. On your website, the more when you're consistent with putting new content on your website, Google looks at your website as looking at it as a relevant piece of a relevant source of information. So whether you're a restaurant, an attorney, or a coach or consultant like us, when you're updating your website with fresh content all the time, like weekly for us, then it says, oh, Google will look at your website and say, oh, you're more of a resource or more of an expert or more relevant source of information than anyone else in your genre or your competitors. And then you start to get ranked higher. Especially, don't want to get too geeky, but understanding what keywords that you're targeting when you're consistent with some of the keywords, because keywords are whenever people are searching in Google for your type of restaurant or your type of attorney for the type of specialty that you have, or a coach or consultant like this, when they're going to search some specific, put in some specific keywords in the search bar, right? And so the more often those keywords are shown up in your website, right, then the more relevance Google says that you are, the more relevant you are to them.
Well, and we've been doing our podcast for 4 years now, so there's a lot of consistency there.
Yeah, and so we've been very, very consistent with it, and so therefore we rank number one on Marriage and Business Coach, for example. And so, but that took a while to do. That's why you have to be consistent with it, because marketing in general is a long game. But there are some short-term things you can do in marketing. Because say you're just starting your business, or you're launching a new product or service, and you want to get out there as much as possible. So in the short term, there are some short-term things you can do, and we call it outbound marketing. Any kind of ads, whether it's in an article or a magazine, or it's in Google or social media. There's paid ads you can do, or sending out flyers or newsletters and stuff like that, or other promotional things, or even public speaking. I would put that in the short term, because you're in front of an audience, a big audience, or a bigger audience than normally you would be, and people get to know you and trust you really quick, and then that can lead to some sales, or lead to leads. But these outbound forms of marketing, we call it outbound because you're basically interrupting them. right? They're not looking for you per se, but your ad is showing up, or the flyers in their email, or their, not the email. Well, it could be in their email inbox, but it could be in their regular snail mailbox.
Yeah, because how many times have people told us, "Oh my gosh, I ran across your business card." A client of yours just said that the other day. You met like I don't know how many years ago, and she ran across your flyer
Yeah,
or business
it
card.
was about, I'm guessing, about 8 years ago. Because I was trying to find out, where did you? And she says, "Oh, I was attending your workshop," and it was through some questions. And I figured, God, that was like 8 years ago. And the fact that she still had my business card, I said, that's amazing, But our business card did stand out because it was kind of a pyramid shape,
And
right?
it was a
Yeah,
physical business card. It
yeah.
wasn't a digital.
So, anyways, so, uh, so outbound marketing is more about paying for advertisement that just gets in front of people, right? And so the benefits of that is you can reach a lot of people really quickly, but the cons to that is the challenge to that is it only works when you're spending money, right? When your ad is up was when you're spending money, and that's the only time people are going to see you. And then and with that, you're going to be spending a lot of money and paying for trial and error, because your ad, a flyer, a postcard, mailer that goes out, you may not get the results you really want right off the bat. So which means you're going to have to tweak it, right? And so you're spending money tweaking, basically. And so again, the pros to it is that you're going to reach a lot of people really quickly. The cons to it, you're spending money. So, but again, if you're launching your business or your new product or service or whatever, sometimes that's a necessary evil. So it's not that we're not for it. It's just understand the pros and cons to it. So if you're going to start a new marketing campaign, for example, you might, if you're going to do the short-term stuff, the outbound marketing, you always want to back it up with the long-term, we call it inbound marketing, the stuff we were talking about, like the podcast and email newsletters and LinkedIn newsletters and social media. But understanding that's the long-term game. That's the long game, right? But the benefits with the long game is it lasts, and you don't have to spend money per se. I mean, I spend money with paying a podcast editor, so I am spending money, but most of the stuff is free, but it also lasts a long time. So again, inbound marketing is just that organic social media content you're putting out, website SEO, you want to get your website to rank high, the blogs you do, the vlogs you do, the podcasts, right? Those are
Writing a book.
YouTube, writing a book, even the public speaking. Again, we talked about that in the short term, but it's also long term because there's some long term benefits to that. Like that workshop I did 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Obviously, that made an impression, and so. And then there's the email and customer retention piece. So let me kind of break this down. So the inbound marketing, those are generally free unless you're paying somebody to help you with some of this stuff. But putting the content out there is free, and the results can be long lasting. So like the podcasts that we're doing, because it's searchable both on Google and even on iTunes or Spotify or whatever, these things are searchable, and it's there.
Well, it's
And
going to
it's always
last.
going to be there.
Yeah, it's going to say a lifetime.
Yeah, it's always going to be there. So like even in podcasts, like you get the biggest listeners and engagement when you're in the first week that you publish the podcast or you're on a guest on a podcast. But you're still going to get new listeners, because whenever like our podcast or somebody you're guesting on, they're always going to get new listeners. And what happens is these new listeners will go back to the beginning and then use it like a series, and listen forward, and go to the beginning and then listen forward. So which means you're always going to be getting new listeners and potentially new people hearing your content or reading or seeing your content.
That's a great way to market yourself.
Yeah. So different from outbound marketing, when you only get found when you're paying for this stuff. Inbound marketing, that stuff just lasts forever, right? It's in the internet forever. And that's beautiful, right? Our website is always going to be searchable. Our podcast episodes are always going to be searchable. They can always be found. Being a guest on podcasts is always going to be found. And then so there are, and then social media potentially, like even like LinkedIn, like for if those of you, especially if your target audience is more on LinkedIn or more engaged on LinkedIn than they are on Facebook and Instagram, LinkedIn, that stuff, I'm still getting engagement on posts I've done years ago. It's amazing. And that's different from Facebook and Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
You only get the engagement like in the beginning. After that, every now and then you will still get some engagement on some old posts, but not like on LinkedIn, where some old posts or articles, I'm still getting engagement, comments on stuff. It's amazing.
And that's something you write on your own, and it's costing you time, but it's not necessarily you have to pay someone to do it for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. And everything that you're doing, well, even on ads, but inbound, outbound marketing, always try to point people towards signing up for to be on your email list. Just about every business I can think of would benefit from developing the email list.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's even retail and restaurants and all that, but definitely service-based businesses like ours, accountants, whatever. And what you're doing is you're trying to provide them valuable content. So even if a restaurant, here, the recipe of the week or whatever, right? And, or some healthy food tips kind of thing. Like for us, it's, how to work-life balance. It's everything around work-life balance. How do you do your business better? How do you do your marriage better? Right. And like this episode is about basically how do you do your business better? So you always want to build an email list, because that's a way that you can stay in front of your customer even when they're not doing business with you at the moment.
Well, it's so important because you own that, and that's in your hot little hand, as opposed to all these social media sites. They get hacked, and who knows what happens to your account. It took, oh my gosh, my girlfriend got hacked, and it took her like over a year.
Yeah.
And I don't know if she ever got it back. She had to start a new account. So she had thousands and thousands of followers, and she had to make a new account. So sad.
Yeah. They call social media and stuff as you're renting space. Yeah, it's not yours. Even your own account, your own profile is not yours. You can get canceled at any time.
Mm-hmm.
I've had posts canceled, and I have no idea why they cancel it. I mean, they give you you violated community standards, but you look at the community standards, which are pretty vague, number one. And then I look at my post and I'm like, I don't know what I violated.
Because they're not specific. They don't tell you what it is.
Which is kind of stupid. I think it does a disservice, right, to their customer when they don't point out what it is.
What exactly, yeah.
And you don't have a chance to, it's technically you can contest it and they can review it, but I've had things reviewed and it still says, oh, you violated standards. But clearly I'm like, there's nothing. So I think it does a disservice to the customer, because let's say I did inadvertently violate community standards. Well, if you let me know what it is.
Yeah, wouldn't it be nice to know?
Yeah,
so you can change it?
Because clearly I'm not intentionally trying to violate these things, right? But then there's also the ones that I'm like, I don't think I violated anything. And there's no, there's
no personal touch.
Yeah.
No relationship or connection.
Terrible customer service. Anyways, all to say is it's not yours, but your email list is. And then a friend of mine, his email list is like 170,000. And, there was some months ago where Facebook and Instagram went down, right, for a day. And people were freaking out,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what he did was he emailed his list and said, this is why your list is so valuable.
Did he really?
Yes, he did. And I said, genius.
I know. Like, it's not smart.
Right? I'm like, yeah, absolutely use it. I mean, but he proved his point, right? And so I have a feeling that a lot of people were building their email lists after that email he sent out. But your email list is so valuable for so many things because it's something you own.
It's like gold.
Right. And even if you want to change your service, like we use Kajabi, but if I want to use my service, I can take my email with me. I just download it into a CSV file and I take it with me. Right. And so your email list is yours, and you get to provide valuable content to your customers and keep them, trusting you and building those relationships even past the point of sale. And so let's see here. Cons, with this, so the pros is it's free. Well, I think I already said that, so I'm kind of going through my notes here. The cons with this inbound marketing is it takes time. Again, consistent and persistent, right? It takes time. And there's going to be some trial and error, just like any form of marketing. There's going to be some trial and error with it. But again, pick a medium that you can be consistent and persistent with. Emails is one of those things I'd have to say that you definitely want to do. Mm-hmm. And if you don't like to write emails, then find somebody to do, or you might pay somebody to have to do it. But it's so worth it. And then whatever you're going to do from this point out is right. You start out using both outbound. If you're going to use outbound marketing, definitely have to use inbound marketing too at the same time. You run it in parallel. But everybody should be doing inbound marketing. Again, something that fits you, that you can do and be consistent with. And if you're going to do outbound marketing, make sure you're following up with some inbound marketing, because I have too many people that I know that they're going from one different, and they're doing both outbound and inbound, but they're going from one strategy, one thing to another, and they haven't been consistent with any one thing.
Like they keep changing every 3 months to different
and they haven't been consistent with any one thing. And I said, if you would be consistent with just one thing.
Well, they don't even track it, a lot of them.
Yeah, if you would only be consistent with one thing, you'll find that one thing is going to be the thing that provides the biggest fruit over the long haul.
Well, I think a lot of people are wanting one-hit wonders. Don't we all? But a lot of times that doesn't happen.
Yeah. And so start out, it's perfectly fine starting out with a lot of outbound marketing to generate, get to a big audience really quick, and then, but then make sure you follow inbound marketing, and then over time you want to limit, if not eliminate, the outbound marketing, and just having the inbound marketing. Hopefully at that point is just providing that consistent return on investment, right? I mean, we get organic discovery calls all the time because of our inbound marketing. Just that podcast and all the stuff that I use it for we're number one in Google for, again, we talked about marriage and business coach, and we're constantly getting people, filing or signing up for a free discovery call for us. And again, that's the thing that's just paid dividends. And we've tried different types of marketing too. Right.
Well, and by the way, if you'd like a free discovery call,
yeah, it's in the show notes. It's in the show notes. Definitely.
marriedentrepreneur.co is our email. Is our website.
Yeah. And then you can, if you want to just talk marketing, if you want to get more in depth about helping you craft your perfect marketing strategy based on what we talked about, yeah, definitely pick our brain, sign up for the free discovery call. You can use your time for however you want. But yeah, that we've done different types of marketing too, but the one thing we've been consistent with has been the podcast and all that goes into it, and that has provided just the regular return on investment, right?
Yeah, it's been a great return on investment.
And so anyways, I hope this helps. I hope this helps you, form the proper expectation around marketing, and to start to funnel your time, money, and resources in the one that you can be consistent and persistent with. And once you're consistent, persistent with it, you will see the benefits over time. So hope this helps.
If you have any questions, you guys, on marketing, please give us an email. Reach out to us at marriedentrepreneur.co. We'd love to hear from you guys and answer any questions you may have.
And please share this with another married entrepreneur that could benefit from this. And we would love a review on the podcast. So again, until next week, God bless, and talk to you soon. Thank you for listening to the Thriving in Tandem podcast. Please visit our website, marriedentrepreneur.co, for a variety of free resources to help your marriage and business succeed.
And feel free to leave us a review and share this episode with another married entrepreneur. That would mean so much to us.
See you next week.